everybody, welcome back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I okay, let me try that again. Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials for you. Nothing started today. I know. What am I going to talk about? I have some stuff to talk about. It's Murdaugh Monday. Woohoo! Look, I'm getting finished with this thing. Well, you can't tell because the light pad's on. What? Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me turn it off. Hold on. Hodo, hodo. Remember that from Game of Thrones? I've been doing that for years. I know it's weird. Let's turn it off. Turn it off. There we go. Okay, so you can see the little spot that I'm filling in there. Oh, not too well. Right there. I got to fill that in, and then I have a little bit here to fill in, and then I'm done. Yay! Did you hear what I said? I know the microphone was way over there. Okay. 6 days till Christmas. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. On the second, I'm not going to go through that whole song. People are like, what about the duck song? The duck walked up to the lemonade stand and he said to the man right in the stand, hey, got any grapes? Nope, I sell lemonade. Anyway, you're like, what are you? You're crazy. I know, because I am fun employed and I'm enjoying my life. Sorry about that. All right, so it is Murdaugh Monday. Let's get to it. Please, if you're watching back on the replay, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and let me know down in the description, down in the comments that you were here. Leave me a comment. I read all my comments. Sometimes I even reply. So Alex Murdaugh, oh my God, he is in trouble again. Yes. He is now facing 9 more charges in state court for failing to pay state income taxes for 9 years, from 2011 to 2019. Didn't pay his income taxes. Nope. On $7 million of income. This brings the grand total of financially related charges to 99 charges. He is now facing, I didn't write it down, over 900 years in jail. This does not include the trial that starts on January 23rd for the murders of his wife and son. That's a whole different thing. Yeah. This man might as well just pitch his tent at the prison, because that's where he's going to live out the rest of his life. Holy cow. Where did all that money go? Where did it go? And I might add, he has still not had any federal charges. They're not in any hurry. They're putting their case together. And there's no doubt that he will be charged federally for some of these financial crimes. It just has not happened yet. So, good thing he was a lawyer, because he's going to spend a lot of time in court over the next few years. Not in the capacity that he had hoped for, because he was disbarred. Now, if you're not familiar with Alex Murdaugh is from South Carolina, member of a very prominent family. His father was a solicitor, his grandfather was a solicitor, his great-grandfather was a solicitor, and in fact, in the very courtroom that he appears in for the murder trial, the back of the room, there's a big portrait of his grandpa, Buster Murdaugh, which the judge has said he is going to require that it be taken down for future hearings and the trial. That portrait will no longer be there. Good idea. So he has been charged with the murder of his wife and son. Tragic, tragic, tragic. His son and wife were out at their property called the Moselle property, and they were out by the dog kennels, and they were brutally murdered out by the dog kennels with different weapons. This is what puzzles me. They were both killed with a different weapon. And Paul, like, his head was like blown off. So the prosecution has said that even though they don't have to prove a motive, they have said that the motive for this crime was that particular day someone showed up in Alec Murdaugh's office and wanted to question him about some of the financial issues. So it was going to come to light. All these financial crimes were going to come to light, and his wife was going to figure out why she had no money. Yeah. So, and Paul, his son, had trial, like within a few weeks of the date he was killed, he was supposed to appear in court on charges that he was driving a boat while intoxicated, a boat full of his friends, that he ran into a piling on a bridge, intoxicated. The Mallory Beach, who was in the boat, was ejected from the boat and drowned, and it wasn't found for days. And her family is suing, and I mean, this is just like this whole big mess. You're going to see a lot of stuff on Netflix and documentaries. It's all going to come. But I've been following it. So there is a trial January 23rd for the murders of his wife and son. So now he has another son, Buster Murdaugh, who dropped out of law school because he was caught cheating and never went back to law school, and now he's doing something else, and doesn't live in South Carolina anymore, and he's living his life somewhere else. Crazy. So this morning I tuned in. There was we are now on, I've got cat hair on the canvas here. I'm trying to get it off. I should probably just use the tweezers, right? Anyway, this morning they resumed the sentencing of Aaron Dean. He was found guilty last week of manslaughter. He was facing murder charges for the death of Atatiana Jefferson, a 28-year-old woman who was in her home with her 8-year-old nephew playing video games, both of them. He was on his Switch. She was on PS4, I think, at PlayStation. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And she had tried to help him cook hamburgers earlier in the night, and he burned them because they were busy playing video games. Burned the hamburgers, so because of the smoke and stuff, they had opened up the house. They forgot to open the doors because they were playing video games. Video games is like a rabbit hole. Like and I'm guilty as anybody. I just love my video games, and if I'm starting to play, I'm like, you don't even have a conversation with me because I won't hear you. So they forgot the door was open. So one of the neighbors calls and says, the door is open, and could you check on them? Because the cars are there, but the door's open, and, all night. Now it's the middle of the night. So it was very dark that night. And so the Aaron Dean, police officer, gets called out there with another officer in another vehicle. The two officers respond. Both of them rookies. They went to the same police academy. They were both on the job less than a year. He's the officer that the case was assigned to because, I don't know, it was his district or whatever. She was just backup. So they park somewhere else because it comes to them as an open structure call, which they have to handle as a silent alarm. So they do. So they approach the house. They approach the front door. And they don't identify themselves, but the front door's open. They look in, and it looks ransacked. I mean, the house looks ransacked. And then they decide that they're going to go around the perimeter of the house. And as they're going around the perimeter of the house, he sees Atatiana in the window, and he tells her to put her hands up, and he shoots her and kills her. He says he saw her raise a weapon. The nephew said she raised a weapon. Nephew said he saw the cops, heard him command her to put her hands up, and she brought the weapon up. Anyway, so he was found guilty of manslaughter versus first-degree murder, which he would have been faced with life in prison. So instead of being faced with life in prison, he can be sentenced anywhere from 2 years to 20 years. But the sentence is not coming from the judge. The sentence is coming from the jury. So they heard evidence on Friday. I watched some of my other videos. There was drama on Friday. So really, watch the drama video and you'll hear all about it and see it. So court adjourned Friday, and they said, come back on Monday, we'll do closing arguments. Now, Aaron Dean is in custody. He was out on bail. He's in custody now. They resumed this morning with closing arguments by the attorneys, and the judge sent the jury out to deliberate. So we're waiting for this sentencing. I should put that on so I know when they come back. Okay, the jury is still out. So I've got it here. I don't have a thumbnail up to go live when that happens because I don't know what the timing of that's going to be. I don't know how long they're going to deliberate. I suspect that the verdict of manslaughter was a compromised verdict because they deliberated for a very long time, and I think there were people that were guilty, people that were not guilty, and that was a compromise, this manslaughter. So I think there's going to be a lot of debate about whether he should get a probated sentence, which would be anywhere from 2 to 10 years, and the jury can recommend that it be probated, or is he going to get the 20 years that the prosecution is asking for? So I listened to the closing arguments this morning, and the prosecution is saying that were you to probate this man's sentence, you heard the probation officer. She said that these people get a 15-minute interview once a month. That's 3 hours a year. Is that that's what you would be sentencing him to? 3 hours interview a year. Is that what a Tatiana's life is worth? 3 hours a year? What message are you going to send the community? What message are you going to send to this family? I mean, what is her life worth? He said, because the the defense mentioned that, this was an isolated event. It will never repeat itself. So the prosecution said the reason it will never repeat itself is because no other police officer would act the way he did. So the defense argued 3 points. The purpose of prison sentence is for three different reasons. Either you want to punish the defendant, you want to rehabilitate the defendant, or you want to deter someone else from ever doing this kind of thing. So as far as punishment, they said, well, what are you punishing him for? He was out there, he was a police officer, he was responding to a call, he was performing the way he was trained. So why are you punishing him? The police department is the one that trained him. He could be a valuable member of the community. He could assist police in the future with how this should never happen again. And, anyway. And he says, rehabilitation. Rehabilitation from what? This is an isolated event. It's never going to happen again. So there's nothing to rehabilitate him from. He's a functioning member, law-abiding member of society right now. He's not breaking any rules. He'll never be a police officer again. He's got a degree in physics, I think. He'll get another job. He's a valuable member of the community. And then he said deterrence. Now, if you're going to give him a sentence for deterrence and you want to send a message, well, what's the message? So all were really good arguments, I thought. So I have no clue which way this is going to go. Is he going to go to prison? If the sentence is anywhere from 10 years, 2 to 10 years, the jury can request that it be probated. In other words, just give him probation. If the sentence is anywhere from 10 to 20 years, there's no issue about probation. Can't get probation. He has to go serve his time. Minus good behavior and everything, but he'll get out of jail eventually. So that's what's going on with that case. Now, the other case that's happening today is George Wagner's sentencing. And I peeked in a little bit on it. The coverage of this thing has just been horrendous. First of all, because during the trial, people were allowed to opt out of being shown on camera, and you didn't get to hear their testimony. So it was just a horrible trial for Law and Crime Network to cover. Then this morning, I'm waiting for the sentencing hearing, and it starts, and you can't hear anything. They didn't fix the sound. I can't hear the judge. I can't hear anything that's going on. So I'm like, okay. And I have the attention span of a chicken, so I just changed the station. But I went back to, the other trial, Dean. So I did switch back later on. They fixed the sound, and I was listening to this poor woman. She apparently was the mother of Hannah Hazel, who was one of the 8 victims. She was the fiance of one of the other victims, and she was angry. She was giving her victim impact statement, and she was just lighting into George Wagner the Fourth, and that evil father of yours, and that horrible family of yours. I don't disagree with her. I mean, what a horrendous. So George Wagner the Fourth he was on trial for the murder of 8 victims of the Roden and Gilley family. I think she was part of the Gilley family, the woman that I heard this morning. So and that courtroom is packed. So he was found guilty of all these 8 murders. Now, his mother had already pled guilty, and she's serving 30 years in prison. His brother had pled guilty, and he's serving 8 life sentences. Now, his father's going to be going on trial next year. So we'll get to listen to that. Maybe. Hopefully it's a different judge, and he doesn't have that whole opt-out from the witnesses thing, because I hated that. So at the end of this, the victim impact statements, then I suspect he's going to get sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, because they took the death penalty off the table. So, and that's not one where the jury is making the decision. This is the judge that gets to decide. But he has to, because of Marsy's Law, he has to give the victims a chance to speak their piece to Mr. George Wagner. So that's what's happening. Let's talk about this day in history. It's not long, trust me. It's going to be a short show today. So, in 1843, Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol. Now, he grew up very impoverished, and that's where the influence for a lot of his stories came, including A Christmas Carol. And my goodness, by the time he wrote A Christmas Carol, he was a very established author. He would write novels every couple of years, and he died at the age of 56 or 58. He didn't live a huge long life, but very, very well accomplished during his lifetime. He's married and 9 kids. Eventually divorces his wife and has an actress for a mistress, and lived a really interesting life. So that was Charles Dickens. Then I want to talk to you about what I'm going to try to do this week is add a little segment called The History of Christmas. Yeah. So where did Christmas trees come from? Well, it's thought that they came from Germany in the Middle Ages. Yeah. That's how they date back to. They didn't come to the U.S. The first Christmas tree lot was established in the U.S. in 1851. And a 2019 survey said that 77% of U.S. households have put up a Christmas tree. But of those 77%, only 19% are real trees. And you want to know why? Because you got to water them. And then the needles all fall out, and when you pull it out of the house, you got to vacuum up all. It's a mess. It smells lovely. They're very expensive, too. Just saying, But I think my son went out and they chopped their own tree this year. They went out to a Christmas tree farm, and they, that's a fun thing to do. That's a great family outing. Get everybody, pile in the car, go to the Christmas tree lot, pick a tree, chop it down, come home and put it up. Not for me. I have the most beautiful artificial tree you're ever going to want to see. So, all right, that's the show for today, guys. And I did decorate the tree finally. Yeah, it's decorated. I will see you tomorrow on Crafting and Crime Daily. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I'll find something. Have a great day, everybody.